Hey, Pastor Dave here. I wanted to talk about John MacArthur's memorial service because there are some important elements there that should be a part of every Christian funeral or memorial service and simply aren't there always. So the first element was praise. There was beautiful praise at his service. I hope the congregation was actively involved in that praise as well. A funeral service, a memorial service is a worship service when it's done by a Christian church. And so we should give our thanks and praise to the Lord, worship and exalt his name at all times, even in the times of our sorrow. I can imagine there being a funeral in which maybe I'm too upset to actually sing. And that's okay. But I want the crowd, the body of believers gathered together to praise and worship the Lord for me, even when I can't. We enter his courts with praise. The second item that was good in the service was that there was a lengthy reading of the Word of God. Now, that was done in a unique way because it was actually John MacArthur's voice in a reading of from 1 Corinthians that he had given before. But the reading of the Word is an important element, not just a verse. Come on, give it a good, hearty segment of the Word of God. Let God speak to the people through his Word. And the third element was that of prayer, and not just, far too often in churches, what happens is we have prayer. I've seen one where it was just prayer for the offering, and it was a long, long prayer for the offering. Everything else didn't matter, or just prayer for, knees, hearts, kidneys, and so forth. The John MacArthur service had prayer, and there should be plenty of prayer. My house shall be called a house of prayer. And then also the preaching of the word is very important. Look, I've been to a church service before where it was very long, a memorial service, and there were several speakers that spoke eulogies. Hold it, truck coming. I don't know if you can hear that at all. Well, at any rate, there were several speakers. It lasted well over 2 hours. And at this funeral, there were even 2 pastors that stood up to speak, but neither of them gave the word of God. One, maybe he did the tiniest bit, but they were superfluous. The pastors didn't need to be up there. All they were doing is more eulogy. They didn't give the word of God. And that was a big and huge problem. I've been to a funeral once where the pastor gets up and he says, well, I know whatever I say here won't matter. Well, then sit down and shut up. And why get up in the first place and waste people's time? It matters if you're a minister of the gospel to proclaim Jesus to the grieving. If the gospel doesn't matter, if Jesus doesn't matter, if the good news doesn't matter, why the heck are you in the ministry? So the gospel matters, Jesus matters all the more, even and especially at a funeral. Now, there is a difference, very markedly so, between, say, Lutheran preaching and some evangelical preaching at funeral services, memorial services. And that is, for the other group, it's very heavy on eulogy. In a Lutheran service, it's light on eulogy, that is a good word about the person who died, and it's heavy on applying the gospel and proclaiming the good news of life and resurrection in Jesus Christ. When I pass one day, I hope there will be some good things to say about me, but I don't want my funeral to be a eulogy. Point people to Jesus. Bring Jesus to people. He's much better than I am. And that's it. All those elements, I think, are very important, and oftentimes they are lost. And they shouldn't be. You all have a good day. Remember that Jesus does indeed love you.